Since the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct a couple of weeks ago, it's become very apparent that a big focus of this system from Nintendo's perspective is GameChat. The Switch 2 Direct in itself focused a lot on it. It took like 10 minutes of the presentation. Maybe not that much, but it was a good chunk. And since then, they've done a couple of ads. There was an intro video where the highlight of the Switch 2 seems to be GameChat. They did an ad with Pong Rudd, which is a throwback to another ad from the 90s that also featured Pong Rudd, focused on the Super Nintendo at the time, that used the tagline, "Now you're playing with power." And they recreated that ad, now focused on GameChat, with the tagline, "Now you're playing together." So it's very apparent that Nintendo really wants this to be like a big selling point of the Switch 2. But ever since that initial reveal of Game Chat during the Switch 2 Direct, it feels like a lot of people don't understand this feature or don't really appreciate what it's trying to do. Personally, I'm in love with this feature, and I really wanted to talk about why I think it's being underappreciated and why I think you might not be judging it and giving it the credit it deserves. So this all started during the Switch 2 Direct itself. Now, from the start, I was in love with this feature. I really liked it from the moment I saw it. I thought it was a really cool idea. But after that, I watched a couple of live reactions from people that I care about, that I follow, and I was very surprised to see some people that really didn't understand what it's all about. Just take a look at these clips.
So share your game screen.
Whoa.
Did you see someone just like go on top of that dinosaur?
Super choppy, but still cool.
Do it?
Well, they're not lying.
Wall ride.
They're not lying to us. It is choppy. They're not trying to hide it.
Okay.
You guys are just
Oh, look at all the. Oh, why is it so laggy?
Oh shoot!
Look at how laggy the bottom screen is. Why is it so laggy though? Holy crap!
Now, don't get me wrong, I love Arlo and Nathaniel. They're awesome. They make awesome videos, and I really enjoy watching them. But to see this, and the fact that these comments also were echoed throughout the internet in online forums and in the comments to the live streams and everything, that was really upsetting to me. And that's because it feels like these people don't really understand what Game Chat is supposed to be and, why it is the way it is. First off, from a technical perspective, you might not know this, but capturing your own screen using a single piece of hardware, you only have this processor with a GPU built in, and capturing your own screen, that takes a good bit of resources, especially if you want to do it at 30 frames per second and even more so at 60 frames per second. So to accommodate for Game Chat to be able to capture footage at that quality and speed, you would have to take those resources away from the games, which means all of the games that are on Switch 2, they would have that much less to work with in order to look as good as they do. Who knows if a game like Cyberpunk or, I don't know, Street Fighter 6 could even run on a Switch 2 if those resources had to be taken away to enable Game Chat. So obviously Nintendo had to find a bit of a compromise here to make sure that there were enough resources for developers to use in their games while still enabling this feature. If a lot of these games didn't come to the Switch 2 or ran worse than they do, and people knew that it was because of Game Chat, I don't think people would be very happy about that either. So it feels like, it's a complaint that people don't really consider the consequences of doing it in a different way. But it's also about the goal of Game Chat. Game Chat isn't a live streaming service. It's a hangout space. Now, during this interview, Nintendo does these interviews called Ask the Developer, and during the Ask the Developer interview focused on Game Chat, well, one of the developers said this: "We were discussing how it would be nice to recreate that student lounge-like atmosphere, where everyone gathers not only to play games, but also just to hang out. When you're just hanging out with people in a shared space like this, the point isn't to watch the game in its best quality possible. You're not there for the game. You're there to hang out with people that you care about, people that have similar interests. You're there to have those shared experiences together and to see what they're experiencing and see their reactions, maybe be able to help them because you're all together and you're sharing that time together." And Game Chat is about that feeling of community. The point of it is to make you feel like you're with these people. The point isn't to watch them play. It's for you all to be together, doing what you want to do. It doesn't even have to be playing the same game, but you're all together and you can talk about it. You can share your experiences. If you're playing the same game, you can ask someone for help and they can go to where you are. And the frame rate of being able to see, that other person's screen, that's all you need to be able to create that experience. Like, If you were asking for help to someone in person, they also wouldn't be constantly looking at your screen at 60 frames per second. They would take a peek, see where you are in the world, and say, "Oh, I'll go there and I'll help you out." They wouldn't need to see you in that super smooth frame rate of 60 frames per second. It's just enough for you to be able to have that shared experience and understand what's happening so you can help each other. It doesn't have to be super smooth, because the point of it is not to share the game, it's to share the space, it's to share the experiences. GameChat was being developed around 2020, and we all know that during that time the need for a shared virtual space really skyrocketed for everyone. But because of that, some of the comments that I've seen seem to suggest that Nintendo is maybe a little out of touch. You know, we're 5 years removed from 2020, and the need for those virtual spaces isn't the same anymore. But to me, this is very far from the truth, and I think this idea makes all the sense in the world. Now, I didn't have to wait until 2020 to have this need for a virtual shared space. Before I married my wife, we were in a long-distance relationship for many years. And this is all we had. Like, for a long time, we would just hang out virtually. And having this shared space and being able to see what each other, were doing, that was super important to us. We were spending time together. And that really helped, that's how bonds form and are maintained. In a virtual space, that's really the best you can do. I live with my wife now, but I still have this experience now. I work remotely, and I'm in the Discord server where other people who work remotely can all come together and hang out in the same space, and you're just all working at the same time. And it helps keep everyone in check, it helps keep everyone focused, but it also gives, everyone something to talk about. They give people a space to interact with others, so they don't have to be enclosed, and it doesn't have to be this enclosed experience just because you're alone in a physical space. You always have someone there. This just helps create bonds with people, and I think it's an awesome idea. GameChat is bringing this idea to a much more fun setting. So instead of work, it's when you're playing a game. If you're playing any game, you don't have to be playing the same game as your friends or whoever you're hanging out with. You just create this space, you play your game, they play theirs, and you can talk about what you're doing, you can see people's reactions to what's happening, and you can ask for help if you need to. Like, you're just spending time together, and you're seeing what they're doing, they see what you're doing. You can talk about the games, or you can talk about anything else. It's a shared space where you're all hanging out, and it's just that. It's a community that you form with the people that you care about. And, because we're removed from what happened in 2020 now a little bit, people say that, this is a little out of touch, because why wouldn't you just hang out in person? And yeah, for younger people, maybe that makes a little more sense. But as a grown adult with a job and a lot of responsibilities, how often can you really line up your schedules with everyone else's to the point where you can travel to meet all of your friends to have this kind of hangout space? It's not really easy. So to be able to do this over the internet, to have this shared space that's not just about playing the same game, because a lot of the time you don't want to play the same game as your friends necessarily. It's just having this shared space where you can hang out with your friends, you can all do your own thing, or you can do the same thing. It's entirely up to you. But you have this sense of community that is very hard to get in person, especially as you get older, because, it's just harder to reconcile your free time with other people's free time, considering all the responsibilities that each person has in their own lives. It's not very easy to make that happen anymore. So I think there's a ton of value to this idea. And it's not like this is just Discord either. I've seen that a lot as well from a lot of reactors and a lot of people on the internet. But GameChat goes beyond Discord in a few ways. Like, yeah, Discord lets you voice chat, video chat, and share your screen. And in the case of Discord specifically, multiple people can share their screen at the same time. Most other, calling services don't actually allow that. Only one person can share their screen usually. Discord does allow all of that. But what Discord doesn't allow is for you to do all of that while still having the main focus be your game. Unless you run a PC and you have 2 monitors where you can have your game on one screen and everyone else's screen share on another screen, You can't replicate this experience on any other platform. Discord is on Xbox and PlayStation, but it's just voice chat. You can't see your friends, you can't see what they're doing. And then maybe you could have a second screen. Sure, if you want to use your phone for Discord, again, you can do that, but it's just voice, or you have to find a weird setup where your phone allows you to see your friend's screen. Like, it's not convenient. So this is really taking the idea of what Discord does, but it's elevating in a way that allows people to form communities in a much more involved way, because you can play your game, you can see everyone else's game, you can choose the size of it still. So if you want to focus more so on your game, if you want to have an experience like Discord, where you just have the phone screen taken up by your game and you only hear what others are saying, you can do that too. But you have the option to see what everyone else is doing, and you can talk about what they're doing. You can communicate, help each other, make comments, make jokes, whatever it is. You can interact with each other and see what they're doing in real time. And this all happens on one screen. It's all there. You can't really get that experience with Discord. It just doesn't work like that. So this is a little more than the Discord clone. People have been really reductive with what GameChat is in that regard. And that bothers me a little bit, because I think the things that make GameChat unique, they exist. And I think they have a lot of value for someone like me who does enjoy that sense of community in a virtual space. I think that makes a huge difference in terms of the value proposition of this service. That being said, as much as I do love this idea, I am a little worried about how much Nintendo is focusing on it. It feels like they really do want this to be the main appeal of the Switch 2. It's like, it's all about game chat. It seems almost like it's a bigger focus than the games. And I hope that doesn't go too far, because obviously this is still a game platform and games are the major thing that they should be focusing on. And I'm worried that a lot of this marketing money and the expectations are being put on the wrong thing. I hope Nintendo doesn't feel burned if Game Chat doesn't immediately take off or something. Personally, I feel like Game Chat is the kind of thing that should really sell itself and speak for itself a little bit more. You build the feature, you advertise it a little bit, you let people know that it's there. And then once they try it, they'll see the value of it. And I think Nintendo is betting on that too. I think the fact that they're offering this free trial, Game Chat is part of NSO in the long run, but they're offering about 9 to 10 months of a free trial that you can use it, from the launch of the Switch 2 to March 31st, 2026. And, Nintendo is really banking on that too. They're hoping that when you try it for free, this is going to give you another reason to subscribe to NSO if you somehow weren't yet. And, I think that's the right move. I think that makes sense. And I think that is what, Game Chats should do. It should be able to sell itself by, just giving the people the chance to try it. Because I really do think, and I agree with Nintendo, that this is a service, once you try it, I think people will really see the value of it and how it helps create this sort of hangout space. But, the fact that it's being marketed so heavily, in these commercials and videos, it makes me worry a little bit about how much money they're putting into it and what their expectations are for this to be successful, because I don't want them to kill off Game Chat in 5 years or so because it didn't have as many users as they were expecting. I hope, they are not spending too much on Game Chat in a sense that is gonna burn them if it doesn't explode in popularity right away, But yeah, those are just some of the few thoughts I had on Game Chat. I really, really love this idea. I'm super excited for it. I'm a little upset that I don't have enough real life friends that will have a Switch too. So I'm trying to start more of a community online of people that I can trust that would be willing to join this space, and so I can have this sort of community with more people and use it more often, because I really do think the idea is great. But yeah, I just really wanted to talk about it. I hope you come away from this appreciating Game Chat a little bit more. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.